Hi there everyone, and a very warm welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be testing a bunch of ESCs from T-Motor, Borey and NBD, looking at acceleration, deceleration, torque, efficiency, and for the first time, thermal performance to see which of these ESCs you should pick and which you should definitely avoid. It's a lot to cover in one video, so let's not waste any more time. Let's dive right into it. In this video, we're going to be looking at 4 different ESCs from T-Hobby, formerly T-Motor, the Velox 50 amp and 70 amp ESCs, the F55 amp Pro 3, and the Pacer P60 amp V2. We've also got 2 ESCs from ZEX Future, the Borey 80 amp and 80 amp Mini, and 2 ESCs from NBD, the Hummingbird 305 and the Hummingbird 200 race spec. If you're excited for these test results, please remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Let me know what ESC you'd like to see tested in the next batch, or what new tests I could add. And if you're an ESC manufacturer, drop me an email, chris@aosrc.com, so you don't miss out being included in future testing. Before we dive into the results, let me take you through the test setup and test methodology that we're going to be using to capture this data. All of the tests are going to be run using the Taito Robotics Flight Stand 15 Pro. And this is a big upgrade on my previous test setup because it samples over 10 times faster, up to 1000 Hertz, so we can see much faster changes in the motor RPM and ESC currents. It also supports much higher current draws, up to 150 amps, and it's got an ASTM calibrated load cell, so we can ensure that all of the results are super accurate. I'm going to be using the ThermalMaster P3 thermal camera to record the temperature of all the ESCs during the test. And as we draw more and more current, it's going to be really interesting to see how hot the ESCs get. I'm going to be using the AOS Supernova 3220 for this testing because at full throttle, this motor draws upwards of 80 amps. And that is well above the maximum continuous current ratings of any of these ESCs. So we're going to really be able to see how hot these ESCs start to get as we push them closer and closer to their maximum current rating. We're going to be putting each of these ESCs through its paces with 3 different tests. The first is a responsiveness test where we look at how fast the ESC can accelerate and decelerate the AOS 3220 motor with an HQ 10x5x3 test prop. Obviously, the faster the ESC can accelerate and decelerate the motor, the more responsive a quad is going to be with that ESC and the better flight performance you're going to be able to get. The second test is a torque test, and here the ESC is going to drive the AOS 3220 as it accelerates a large flywheel from 0 to 10,000 RPM. This is a good test of how well the ESC can commutate the motor and how much of the maximum torque the ESC is able to extract. It's also a great durability test because this is a really high burst load and the ESC has to be able to deal with that huge rush of current and still be able to commutate the motor and accelerate the flywheel effectively. The third test is the thrust ramp torture test. Here we're going to be very slowly ramping the ESC throttle in steps of 10% from 10% all the way to 100%. And while we do that, we're going to be measuring the temperature of the ESC with a thermal camera. And that AOS Supernova 3220 is going to be drawing more and more and more current, and that ESC is going to be getting hotter and hotter. We're going to keep going until the ESC hits 150 degrees centigrade on the FETs, which is way past overheat territory. And we're going to see how much current the ESC is able to supply, how much thrust it's able to generate before it overheats. And we're also going to be looking to see how efficient the ESC is able to be under these extreme conditions. Now that we've looked at the test equipment, methodology, and the ESCs that we're going to be looking at, it's time to dive into the results. All of these ESCs were tested with their factory firmware, and the only settings change was to adjust the KV in AM32 to match the KV of the AOS Supernova 3220 that we're using for the tests. Let's start by looking at the acceleration capability of the ESCs. And here we're looking at the average of 20 identical accelerations from 10% to 50% throttle on my HQ 10x5x3 test prop. All the ESCs, apart from one, start off at pretty much exactly the same RPM value, around 2000 RPM, and accelerate up to about 9000 RPM in just about 140 or 150 milliseconds. The one standout is the T-Motor Pacer 60 amp V2, which starts off at a lower RPM, and that's because this is the only ESC in this test that is running BL Heli 32 firmware. The rest of the ESCs are running AM32 firmware. In terms of acceleration or slew rate, the T-Motor F55 amp Pro 3 and the Pacer 60 amp V2 are the two fastest accelerating ESCs, with the Hummingbird 200 race spec being the slowest accelerating ESC. All of the other ESCs fall somewhere in the middle, and they are all pretty comparable apart from those two. So now let's take a look at the decelerations. Here is the chart showing the average of 20 decelerations from 50% throttle to 10% throttle on my test prop. You can see that all of the ESCs start off at about 9,000 RPM and decelerate down to about 2,000 RPM, again taking 140, 150 milliseconds to get there. There is again a bit of a difference in the final RPM for the Pacer 60 amp V2 because of its different firmware, and the fastest decelerating motors in terms of slew rate are the Hummingbird 305 and the Pacer 60 amp V2 ESCs. The slowest decelerating ESC is the Hummingbird 200 race spec, and actually all of the other ESCs are very, very similar in maximum deceleration to the Hummingbird 305. There is not a massive difference between all the ESCs in this deceleration test. Now let's look at the results for the flywheel torque test. And this test is very similar to the acceleration test that you just looked at. Again, we're stepping from 10 to 50% throttle. But this time, instead of accelerating a test prop, we're accelerating a heavy flywheel. So we get to see just how much torque the AOS Supernova 3220 is able to develop when driven by each of these different ESCs. Obviously, if the ESC is commutating the motor more effectively or delivering more current to the motor, that's going to allow the motor to develop more torque and accelerate that flywheel faster. All of the tests start off around 2000 RPM, because obviously we're starting at the same 10% throttle level, and then accelerate up to 10,000 RPM. The T-Motor Pacer 60 amp V2 has a clear advantage in terms of peak torque, delivering about 1.5 Newton meters of torque at 3,500 RPM. And BL Heli 32, which is the firmware that this ESC is running, clearly has a different shape to the torque curve compared to AM32, where the torque peaks much earlier, around 2,700 to maybe even 2,500 RPM, but the torque peak is nowhere near as high as what we get with BL Heli 32. In terms of the AM32 ESCs, the F55 amp Pro 3 is doing the best in terms of delivering the most torque, and the Hummingbird 200 race spec is struggling a little bit and it's developing the least torque. When the ESC is running identical firmware, you can see that the torque curves are pretty similar. The main difference here is going to be the ESC's ability to supply current to the motor. Obviously, torque is proportional to current. So if the ESC can allow the motor to draw more current because it's got a lower resistance, then that is going to allow the motor to develop more torque and accelerate the flywheel faster. Now it's time to look at the data from the torture test throttle ramp, and there is loads of information to go through here. We're going to start with the efficiency of the ESCs, and this efficiency is calculated as the grams of thrust per watt of electrical power delivered to the ESC. Each throttle step was 10 seconds long, and we stepped up in steps of 10%, so 10 seconds at 10%, 10 seconds at 20%, 10 seconds at 30%, and so on until the ESC MOSFETs hit 150 degrees, and then the test was stopped. You can see that there's a big range of efficiency at lower throttle settings, and it's a big range. I mean, we've got anywhere from about 4.5 grams per watt up to about 7.5 grams per watt, depending on the ESC. Obviously, we're using the same motor and the same prop in all of these tests, so it just goes to show how big a difference an ESC can make to the efficiency of a system, particularly at low throttle. You can see that as the throttle setting gets higher and higher, the efficiency of all the ESCs tends to kind of collapse down on top of each other, and theoretically we would expect the efficiency of all the ESCs at 100% to depend only on their resistance, as the FETs are just going to be on all the time. The T-Motor Pacer 60 amp V2 has the lowest efficiency at low throttle, but its efficiency improves as the throttle setting increases, and you can see that actually it's one of the most efficient ESCs at the highest throttle values. So that indicates that BL Heli 32 isn't a super efficient firmware at low throttles, but the actual construction of the ESC, it's got a low resistance, so at high throttles its efficiency improves relative to the other ESCs. If we look at the AM32 ESCs, you can see that they are all very, very similar in terms of efficiency at low throttle, which is what we would expect because they're all running the same firmware pretty much with the same settings. When we get to higher throttle, we can see that the T-Motor F55 amp Pro 3 is slightly ahead of the other ESCs, indicating that it's got a slightly lower resistance. The most efficient ESC at low throttles was the Hummingbird 200 race spec, but it should be noted that this ESC became less efficient than the others at higher throttle settings and was one of the first ESCs to overheat. It only reached about 70% throttle before the ESC overheated and the FETs hit 150 degrees. Now we're going to look at the temperature data from the ESC torture test. And here I recorded all the ESCs with the thermal camera as we stepped up in throttle from 10% to 100%, stepping up every 10 seconds. And none of the ESCs on this test made it all the way to 100% throttle. They all hit over 150 degrees centigrade on the MOSFETs before we reached 100% throttle for 10 seconds. And so this is a really good test of how resilient the ESC is going to be against overheating. We can see how they compare, how hot they get. Just to give you an idea of what this data looks like, I've tiled and labeled all of the thermal data in this clip. You can see that all of the ESCs heat up during the test, initially quite gradually, and then much more quickly as of course we're increasing to higher and higher throttle levels. Once the MOSFETs on each ESC hit 150 degrees, I stop the test, and then I can go back through all of this thermal video to take temperature measurements at particular points, initially every 10 seconds, and then much more frequently as the ESCs get hotter and hotter, and that can give us a temperature versus time chart. And here is that temperature versus time chart. Just to recap the test, we're running 10-second throttle steps. So the first 10 seconds is at 10% throttle, the second 10 seconds is at 20% throttle, the third 10 seconds is at 30% throttle, and so on, with the last 10 seconds being at 100% throttle. So if the ESC makes it to 100 seconds, that means it's run at 100% throttle for 10 seconds, and that's the end of the test. Obviously, none of the ESCs I tested made it all the way to 100% throttle for 10 seconds, so they all overheated at some point before that. The T-Hobby Velox 50 amp and the NBD Hummingbird 200 race spec were the first ESCs to overheat, and then we had the NBD Hummingbird 305, then the Borey 80 amp Mini, which is a 20x20 ESC, then the T-Motor F55 amp Pro, and then we had the Borey 80 amp, the Velox 70 amp, and the T-Motor Pacer 60 amp, all doing really well and making it to 100% throttle for just a few seconds before they completely overheated past MOSFET temperatures of 150 degrees centigrade. Hopefully this chart gives you a really good idea of how robust each of these ESCs are to overheating, and therefore how hard you can push them safely in your quad. Looking at the results from this test, one thing becomes startlingly clear, and that is that the current rating of the ESC is not a good predictor of its resilience against overheating. Some of the lower current rated ESCs, like the F55 amp Pro 3, outperformed some much higher rated ESCs, some with ratings of 80 amps. So you can't just go off the current rating. What does seem to be a better predictor of resilience to overheating is just the thickness of the PCB. The ESCs with thicker PCBs all did a lot better in this test. I think a thicker PCB has more copper in it, which reduces resistance, and it also provides more of a heat sink to spread the heat from the MOSFETs out and avoid the individual FETs getting to super high temperatures. As well as a thick PCB, it also seems to help to have an aluminium heat spreader across the MOSFETs on one side of the board. Again, I think that just helps spread the heat out. And even though I was always measuring from the back side of the board where I could see the FETs themselves, having that aluminium heat spreader on the other side of the board did seem to provide some additional robustness. So if you're looking for an ESC that is going to be the most resilient to overheating, the most robust, then I would definitely look for the thickest possible PCB and the inclusion of an aluminium heat spreader to spread the heat load out. Now that we've been through all the tests individually, it's time to bring up the summary scores. And the way I calculate these is by taking the performance of each ESC on a particular parameter, let's say acceleration, and dividing that performance by the average performance of all the ESCs on test. So if an ESC has a score of 100%, it performed pretty much average. If it's got a score of 90%, it's 10% worse than average. 110% is 10% better than average. Then I take all of the scores across the parameters and average them, and that gives me a total score, which isn't shown on this plot, but the ESCs are ordered by total score. So from worst on the left to best on the right. Hopefully this gives you an idea of how the ESCs compare in performance to each other on all the metrics. And we can see that the best performing ESC is the T-Hobby Pacer 60A V2. Although it does underperform a little bit on efficiency, it is performing really well on all of the other metrics, and that brings its total score up above all of the other ESCs. Second is the T-Hobby F55A Pro 3, which does really well across the board. So this is probably the kind of all-around pick. And then we have the Borey 80A, the Velox 70A. They're doing really well for a 30x30 ESC. Then we have a Hummingbird 305 from NBD, the Borey 80A Mini, which is the best performing 20x20 ESC I tested in this batch. And then we've got the Velox 50A, which does pretty well across the board, apart from on the thermal performance. It's just using a thinner PCB, it's designed for a lower current, so it overheats more quickly. And the Hummingbird 200 race spec, an efficient ESC, doing better in efficiency, but struggling on the other metrics. Hopefully with all of this information, this gives you an idea of which ESC is going to be right for your next build. Let me know down in the comments what new ESCs or new tests you'd like to see added for the next batch of testing. And thank you for watching until the end. That's all I have for you for today. So until next time, I wish you all very, very happy flying.